Hello viewers, today we are going to discuss television audiences and the cultural impact of television on society. Please note I said television audiences, and in the course of the lecture we will discuss whether it is justified to use it as a plural or whether we should stick to audience. So, to begin our argument, let's go back to how all of us watch television. Now, the television set is there in our living rooms and it is on for long hours. The programs roll off one after another. So, we catch up with the programs while we are doing some other things like maybe chopping vegetables or doing our homework and all that. And there are other distractions in the room in the form that the lights are on, there may be the calling bell, the phone may be ringing and so on. And so, we rarely give our full attention to the television set unless it's a program that we really look forward to and we are really motivated to watch. But the television is on for long hours and it becomes a part of our existence. So, the crux of the matter is that television, for most of us who have TV sets in our homes, television is a part of our everyday existence. And the television anchors or the hosts who come on the TV sets, the newscasters and other VJs and other such presenters, they become familiar faces because they appear on the television set at the stipulated time every day maybe, and we look forward to meeting them, and there is a sort of sense of familiarity, sense of camaraderie we develop with these television personalities. So, they become like our extended family. And if you have noticed, these anchors also, when they speak, they have their eye contact with us. I mean, they look directly into the camera, and as a result, just as I am doing right now, and as a result, the television anchors always make an eye contact with the audience. And that's a part of the strategy. In their speech also, when they say, there is a lot of direct address in the form of you, like you will be paying 2 rupees more for petrol from tomorrow, so things like that. So, that's a kind of strategy by the television producers to create a kind of extended family, create a kind of imagined community with all the millions of television viewers who are scattered in their homes throughout the city, maybe throughout the country, maybe throughout the world also. So, television creates what today we understand as imagined communities, meaning that people who do not know each other, they all feel connected to each other. There is a kind of common thread running through them because they all are watching the same programs and they all know the same television anchors, and all of them feel a kind of comradeship, a kind of familiarity with these television anchors and also the television programs. So, television creates an imagined community. And a glimpse of this imagined community, I mean, if imagined community, if you feel that it's a little difficult, a little abstract concept to grasp, you can go back to the film called The Quiz Show. All right, it's based on a real life incident. There used to be a quiz show called 21 Questions, and there was a scam, and the entire program is based on that. So, in this film, Hollywood film, The Quiz Show, we see that while the quiz show, the 21 Questions is on air, which is sponsored by Geritol, as you can see here, all the different kinds of people, nuns, school students, teachers, professionals, housewives, old people, retired people, they're all settling down in front of their TV sets to catch up with this very popular show called 21 Questions. So, such people form an imagined community, and television is the catalyst, or television is the instrument for forming a community like that. You have seen such a community in Slumdog Millionaire also. I mean, this film is much more familiar to you, I am sure. So, television at the end of the day is a great unifier. It brings diverse people together. So, there is no denying about that. And for the millions of viewers, television is like a window to the world. On the TV set, they see earth-shattering events unfolding in front of their eyes, and by watching them as they are happening, they become a part of the history in the making. So events like this 9/11, all of us have watched it live on television. So television brings these events live into the drawing rooms of millions of people. And even programs which are not aired live, like soap operas or quiz shows or like Indian Idol programs like these, they also give an appearance of being live, or they create an illusion of being live, although they are not aired live. So whatever happens on television, the general audience takes it to be live. So now the television has this diverse audience. Now all these diverse people, they are different age groups, different gender, different social class, different religion, different ethnicity. So how does television keep them together? So television follows certain formulae, and all of them begin with a C. The first C is convention. So television follows very strict conventions that it has set for itself. So for example, news. News is always broadcast following a certain set of conventions, which we have discussed in news broadcast. Similarly, all the genres of programming, they follow certain formula, and everything fits into that formula. So that's convention. Then television has a very conservative approach. Television never propagates something radically different, something very out of the way. It's very conservative in what it says and how it says. All right, it doesn't want to hurt the sentiments of people. It doesn't want to go against the thinking of the dominant line of thought in society. And television always conforms to the dominant paradigm or dominant value system or line of thought in the society where it is functioning. So these are the three C's that television follows, and by following these, it is equally acceptable to a very large base of audience. So we must remember, therefore, that television is not a radical medium, okay, and it never brings about a radical change, and it is not meant for people with radical line of thought. Still, these audiences are diverse, like there are writers, there are feminists, there are students, there are professionals, and there are professors, entrepreneurs, gamers. So all of them form this plural. Now we come to the plural thing, that they form television audiences, and therefore television, the producers of television, those who control and produce television, they have created these various genres of programming. Each genre of programming caters to each audience segment. Like it is widely thought that soap operas are meant for women, housewives, and news is meant for professionals, men and professionals. Sports, of course, is meant for sports freaks. It has segmented the audience. Now, in the process of segmenting the audience and addressing the diverse audiences or the diverse needs and tastes of its huge audience base through different genres or different kinds of programming, this is also in a way a market strategy, because the advertising which fuels the television, which keeps television going, can be targeted to a particular kind of people, a particular segment of society. So audience segmentation is also a marketing strategy, because then they will know that which advertisement to slot with which particular program. But having said that, two media scholars, John Fiske and John Hilford, they have come up with a theory that at the end of the day, it is one audience only, because some common threads run through all the programs. And what are the common threads that are running through all the programs? All programs promote individualism as opposed to collectivism. Whether it is a soap opera or whether it is a quiz show, like say Kaun Banega Crorepati, there is only one contestant, okay. Any soap opera, there is always one primary main character whose life's trajectory the soap opera is following. All right. So that way it is always one individual, focus is always on an individual and not on a collective effort. Then all programs promote competition as opposed to camaraderie. Everybody is out to be one up on everybody else rather than coming together and trying to solve a problem. All programs promote consumerism as opposed to Spartan lifestyle. That is given because the advertisers keep television afloat And so the television audience have to be consumers. They have to consume the products that are advertised. So therefore, all television programs promote consumerism directly or indirectly. Then television programs promote winning as opposed to quality performance. Whether it is dance or whether it is sports, the result is important. How good you played, or what are the real fine this thing in the steps that you thought up. More important than that is who has eventually won, who is the winner. Then there are some myths that are created in, so every society has myths. So the myths that you find in fiction programs like movies, etc., the same myths you will find in news programs and other kinds of television programs. For example, say an army officer is always projected as a hero in a movie. Alright, so whether it is a movie called Border or Lakshya or whatever, alright. And similarly, if there is a border related news in a news broadcast, in a news bulletin, the BSF officer or the army officer will always be projected in a positive light. If somebody has lost his life because of a border skirmish, then that is shown in a very elaborate way as a martyr, and his body is brought and he is given a state funeral and so on and so forth. So this is just an example. I am saying that this is a myth in society, that certain class of people, certain groups of people are made heroes for the right reasons. I am saying, I am not criticizing that, but the same myths you will find in fiction and as well as in feature films and as well as in television. So the same myths, the recurrence of the same myths. So that way these are some common threads that run through various genres or various types of programs that you watch on television. Now here John Fiske and John Hartley, in their book Reading Television, they have an extremely interesting observation to make. They are saying that every television program addresses the subordinate class. Its mass mode, it means television. So television's mass mode is merely a recognition of the basically similar social conditions of existence that obtain among apparently widely disparate groups. So what they are trying to argue is that in a soap opera, let us say, you always see the upper class people. Okay, so they are donning branded t-shirts and branded spectacles and shoes. They are riding expensive cars and they have a lavish lifestyle. But at the end of the day, they are selling their labor or intellect or quality time in order to make a living. So in that sense, they are the subordinate class. They are not the producer class. You rarely see a producer class, who is in control, an industrialist who is in control of his own situation as a protagonist on a television show. So therefore, even if we belong to the middle class or the lower middle class, when we are watching those people on television who lead a lavish lifestyle, we feel a sense of oneness with them because they share the same apprehension, the same anxieties as we do. Yes, they have a better lifestyle, more lavish lifestyle, and we aspire to have their kind of lifestyle. So, television articulates the responses of people to their class condition. So, suppose when we see that kind of an elite class, there may be two reactions. One is that we may collectively get together and we may try to change the situation so that our living conditions improve. Or we may be, as an individual, we may aspire to do something, work harder, earn more, so that we can rise up to their standard of living. All right. Now, television, as I said, never shows a collective behavior or a collective action. So, it is always the individual's aspiration which motivates him to do what he does, and which an individual sets the goals for himself. All right. So, now when Marx had written his theory, the Das Kapital, he had said that the society has broadly two classes, the exploiter and the exploited, the proletariat and the elite. Okay, the bourgeois. But today in post-industrialized society, we do not have that kind of watertight class division. Actually, it's a wide spectrum. Of course, there are proletariats in today's society, and there are of course the elite of the elite also, like the Ambanis and the others. But in between these two, there is a wide range, wide spectrum of classes, which is the upwardly mobile middle class, who are all the time trying to improve their material lot by through different kinds of means, by working harder, by changing their jobs or whatever. So, it is actually a sliding scale. Instead of this two watertight compartments, it is a sliding scale of classes that we have in society, and that is exactly what is represented in television also. So, let us see that what kind of role model television creates for us. So, these are two very different kinds of role models we see. One is Oprah Winfrey, she is American, but she is black American, and others is of course, for example, our very own Shah Rukh Khan. So, television will never throw up a role model who is somebody like Netaji or somebody like Gandhiji, who is a mass mobilizer, who sacrifices his personal comfort for the greater common good. Okay, television will never throw up a role model like that. It will always be somebody like them who are conspicuous consumers themselves, who are very, very polished in their lifestyle, and who are individual achievers, who are high achievers at their individual level. All right, because that is the kind of value system television tries to promote. But now we come to it, all right, the television producers are trying to promote that kind of lifestyle, that kind of value system, because it suits them. But when it comes to the audiences, those who are receiving it, various kinds of individuals who are receiving it, is there any control of what sense they make out of these programs? And research has shown that actually the reception is diverse. So, these are the three categories of reception that can happen. One is the dominant system. Dominant system means that what you see on television, you are very differential. Oh my God, Shah Rukh Khan, yeah, Shah Rukh Khan is of course a big person, so like that. And aspirational, that you also want to be somebody like Shah Rukh Khan. But there are other variant responses also. For example, subordinate system. Subordinate system will say that no, we want to improve our lot, so let us come into negotiation with the elite minority, so that the system changes to tweaks a little bit, and we have a slightly better condition of living. So, that is those who are open to negotiation, those who are in favor of negotiation. And third is of course a radical system, that whatever we are seeing, that is totally exploitative and everything has to change, okay, and that requires a revolution. So, therefore, depending on the mindset, depending on the exposure and personal experience of the viewer, the reading of the same television text will be different. So, for example, the news is giving out, a news bulletin is giving out news of a strike in an industry. Okay. So, normally what happens, they say that the strike means disruption of working days, loss of productivity, so therefore loss of development, it is not, any strike is not good for the nation. Normally this is the kind of message that they try to give out. But say a trade union leader who has been through a strike, okay, who has seen the other side of the picture, when he sees that same television, he will pick up certain gestures, certain comments from the vox pop or certain visuals, and he will construct his own meaning out of the same news bulletin. And over that, there is absolutely no control of the producers of the television. All right. And this brings us to a very important psychological theory of perception, which is called the Gestalt theory. Now, what does Gestalt theory say? Gestalt theory says that the sum total of any product is always greater than the sum of its individual parts. Say for example, montage. So, when you are juxtaposing two shots together, a new meaning emerges which is not there in the individual shots. Okay, that is basically the crux of montage, that the meaning lies in juxtaposition, not in the individual shots. So, that is exactly what Gestalt theory is. All right. So, if you apply Gestalt theory to the perception of television viewers, you can say that each viewer completes the picture in his own way. Alright, he watches television, he gets the information, he gets the visuals, but then the completion of the picture is done by every individual viewer in his or her own way, depending on his exposure level, on his level of motivation, on his mood at that particular point of time, and on so many other factors. Alright. Now, you may ask that what is the need to complete the picture, why television gives out a complete picture. Actually, that is not so. Now, television, let us say, it's an oral medium. It has evolved from radio. So, therefore, essentially, it's a visible radio, you can say. All right. So, there is a lot of talk that happens on television. Say, for example, if you have watched these news channels, every evening in every single news channel, there are these debates, where there is an anchor and there are a number of experts who are there in various, situated in various parts of the city or the country, and they air their opinions on a particular issue. And you might have seen that there is a lot of cacophony there. Everybody is trying to speak at the same time. Nobody is willing to listen. Everybody is cutting the other person short. So there is a lot of talk and crosstalk and plurality of opinions and a cacophony which the viewer listens to. So the viewer makes he listens to all that, and he makes sense of the whole thing in his own way. Of course, the anchor also sums it up, but the viewer also sums it up in his own way in his mind. All right, and that is where Gestalt theory kicks in, it comes into play. Similarly, for visuals, I will give a very interesting example about a visual. Now, if you have seen this film Frost-Nixon, if you haven't, then you can always download the film and see. The Frost-Nixon is a Hollywood film about, again, a real life incident. David Frost, a television anchor, he had conducted Richard Nixon's interview, all right, a series of interviews. And in that series of interviews, that Richard Nixon's sense of guilt, and he kind of confessed on television, all right. So here, Reston, who is one of the characters in Frost-Nixon, he says, but that was before I understood the reductive power of the close-up. Because David had succeeded on that final day in getting for a fleeting moment what no investigative journalist, no state prosecutor, no judiciary committee, no political enemy had managed to get: Nixon's face in close-up on the television screen. Richard Nixon's face swollen and ravaged by loneliness, self-loathing and defeat, filling every television screen in the country. So Nixon's close-up exemplified the connotative power of the television image. So that means those who watched Nixon's face, they made their own meanings. The meaning was not denotative, the meaning was not cried out loud. It was his face which was inadvertent, nobody was ready for it. Okay, it just happened, all right, and it went simultaneously into millions of homes, into millions of television sets. Everybody saw that image and everybody made his own meaning in his own way, made sense in his own way, all right. So that is the Gestalt theory. Now we come to certain things that are absent in television, or certain characters or certain character traits, and those are the marginalized. Say for example, Maoists, all right, or maybe terrorists, or maybe homosexuals, okay, those who are fringe characters, those who believe in a certain kind of ideology and who live by it, but that is not dominant and mainstream ideology. You will never see them on television except when, say, maybe there is a Marxist, a Maoist attack, or the homosexuals have brought out a rally, when they are into news, when they precipitate a big event. Except that, you will never see them on television. Now we come to the concluding part, and that is this television in the 21st century as we are seeing it today. In the 20th century, television was actually one to many, means a small group of people, they controlled the television production system, and the others the audiences were more or less passive consumers, all right. But today, we have entered the post-broadcast era, so to say, post-broadcast era, where the audiences are much more proactive, and because of the internet, primarily because of the internet, and the way they watch television, they watch it maybe later on, they watch it on their phone, maybe they record it and they watch it at their own time, all right. So the way they watch the television programs and the way they interact with each other using the social media, that has brought about a radical change in the reception of television. And all these social media platforms, logos you see here, a lot of television is discussed in the social media platforms also. So therefore the audiences are always interacting with each other. They are not passive consumers of television anymore. And another interesting phenomenon that has happened is huge popularity of these programs, Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, etc. Most of them are American programs, but not all of them, which are there on the internet. Now these programs are not, they are alien to us. They have not sprung from our society, nor have they been aired on our television ever, but they are there on the internet, and there is a huge following, huge fan following, who are regularly watching these television, these programs on the internet, not live, but of course defer, but still they are watching, all right. So therefore, that everything is getting mixed up, that close demarcations are getting diffused, and everybody is exposed to many things that they were not earlier exposed to. And so what is the cultural impact of television? Now television has been a scapegoat throughout, all right, whether it is criticized by journalists or critics or even by the academia, the scholars of television studies. Television is considered to be responsible for violence in society, responsible for reduced attention span, responsible for deviant behavior, responsible for so many other things, so many other ills of society. So it is the eternal scapegoat. So there is nothing new to say about that. Television of course turns us into voracious consumers. Television makes us very, very apolitical. So all these things are known, these are circulated. But the question is that television has also created what is known as a viewing public. That means because of television, people are aware of so many things which otherwise they would not have been aware, all right. And because of television, so many movements have come forth, which perhaps would not have gained momentum in the absence of television. Say for example this candlelight vigils, which anything happens and people protest through candlelight vigils, all right. So television, they see these images, and therefore when next time when something similar happens, they do it, all right. So it has brought about a behavioral change in the public, all right. So television has created a viewing public, there is no denying that. And I leave you with a final question, that can television today's television, can it be called a public sphere? Because a public sphere is a zone, it is a space where people can air their opinions freely, and there can be a fearless, free discussion on anything under the earth, anything under the sun, all right. So has television come to that stage, or is it still tightly controlled by the producers, and therefore anybody will not have a free say? Because things are changing in the 21st century, there is citizen journalism coming in, there are so many other things coming in. So I would leave you pondering on this question, that is television, or can television turn into a public sphere in the near future?